Growing up, I never considered myself to be sexy. I was very petite, I was small, and in addition to that, most of my friends tended to be on the bigger side in terms of they had wider hips, they had more prominent features, where bosoms and derrieres were concerned. And I grew up in a society where if an asset is prominent, you're going to know about it. They're going to catcall you. They're going to say, hey, this and that. And, being surrounded by those type of persons, I would think to myself, okay, this is attraction. This is what men like. Not aiming to please men, but that's just the understanding that I had at that point in time, at a younger stage in my life. Nonetheless, I was still very confident. And this is not, I just want to clarify, this is not me even saying that a woman should be objectified because of her assets, which oftentimes they can't do anything about their assets, especially if it's natural assets. But I'm just referencing the fact that I was surrounded by people who had more in your face features than myself. Nonetheless, I was very confident. I was raised by a mother who would always say to me, look in the mirror, you are beautiful. You don't need anyone to tell you that you're beautiful. And of course, my confidence exuded. So many people would come up to me all the time. Like, there was a point in my life, especially as I left my teen years, I started to realize I was causing a bit of commotion. I was getting more attention than I would have thought somebody of my stature would actually get. And then I was placed in situations where I really had to ask myself, especially after being saved, am I actually subtly sexy? Hello there. Welcome to the Whole Woman podcast. I'm your hostess, Nika Jem, and we are back with a brand new episode. And you probably just heard that monologue and you're like, what is she talking about? Like, isn't this about spirituality, being whole, being pure, and all of that? But yes, it is. So let's get right into today's topic. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, tell a friend, let's talk. Don't be shy, leave a comment, okay? Yes. So I just want to clarify, I am not talking about modesty. That's just not my forte. Not telling you to go into places you shouldn't go with butt shorts or anything of that sort, but it's just not my forte. It's not my ministry. I know what I need to do in terms of how to look like a child of the Most High, yada, yada, yada. But I'm not talking about that. It may have sounded like that because I was talking about attraction. And, from when you hear butts and boobs, you're thinking, what are you wearing? But I'm not necessarily going along those lines. I'm actually talking about something that is so taboo, and that is the whole idea of being sexy for church or too sexy for church. There are just some people in life, no matter what they do, they're going to be sexy. But there's also some people, when you see them, you're like, she's a bit too sexy right now. So what's going on? I'm seeing a bit too much. But all in all, still, all in all, or say all in all, I wanted to talk about this topic because as I go, this is just I missed it, but this is a continuation of my revival series, and in order for me to revive spiritually, I need to address the elephant in the room, the birds in the room, the tree in the room, every single facet, every single thing that has impacted how I operate or can potentially, in fact, how I operate, how I am renewed spiritually. I want to talk about it. And not just even me, for everyone. Like, I think this is something that happens to just about anybody. The whole idea of clothes, the whole idea of doing too much, or yeah. So we're talking about sexuality, really, and I don't mean in terms of being straight or anything like that. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'll ever go there. Might be, but that's just not in my that's just not in my book right now. But yes. So first and foremost, right? I was sharing in the monologue. I was just kind of setting the foundation for persons to understand how I look. I am 5'1". I have a baby face. All of my life, I've always looked at least 5 to 10 years younger than my age, right? And I'm in my late 20s right now. People do not believe me. I've been in cases where I've been at work, and this is really me building up the foundation for you to understand the perspective, right? So I've always been, quote unquote, younger in the face. I've always looked younger in the face. When I used to be working, like when I just started official jobs at like age, I started working, well, I've been working forever, but after a period in time when I went to hospitality college and I graduated and I was working at a hotel, many people would come to me thinking that my parents owned a hotel. People would literally threaten to call the cops on me, saying I looked underage. Some did it as a joke, but some people were literally serious. People would literally be like, double take. Who are you? Why are you working here? Are you legal? Like, it was to that point. I'm that young looking, right? And I'm 5 feet one. So I've always had a baby face. I'm 5 feet one, and I've always been small. It's just now, as I've gotten older, that I'm gaining what people would say woman's weight. Yeah, that big woman weight you're supposed to get as you age. And even so, I still look young. With that being said, when I mentioned that I had never considered myself to be sexy, I literally meant it. I understood, of course, that if somebody saw a midriff, if somebody saw legs, if somebody saw a breast, it's something that they were drawn to. It's something where, is it, would you say, I guess historically, like throughout the years, it's been thought of as trying to get attention, something that would get attention, and something that is supposed to be hidden away and concealed. And even before I got saved, right, and I would wear things like that, I never thought twice about it because I was flat. So let me just say, I wasn't flat to the point because I don't even want to talk about my body type, but I was, because that's, no, I don't want this platform to be like that. But my body type, in my opinion, I was slim. And persons could see I was slim. I was small. I was slimmer than now. That's very important, right? But I wasn't like, you wouldn't look at me in a short short and be like, ooh, look at all of that. Or you wouldn't see me in like a top and be like, ooh, look at all of that. Ooh, you're like, I didn't have the chest area and the back. It was fine. It wasn't any. So when I wore certain clothing, I wore it because that's what type of life I grew into. It was normalized. I was in the 21st century, but I never looked and thought to myself, I'm gonna turn the heads today. I need them to look at me today. I just thought it was normal. I honestly, forever since, and I feel even now as a grown adult, I've always had a very bubblegum, I call it rainbow sunshine and sprinkles mentality, where I'm naive to certain things, especially when it comes on to the opposite sex and certain aspects of attraction. So another girl might put on a short shorts and be like, I know I'm gonna turn the house down. I'm gonna get the heads turning. I'm putting on a shorts because why not? At like my intentions were never, well, obviously never as in it's never crossed my mind, but I knew back then I've never had the intentions to attract people by what I wore. It was just that I grew up in a century, in a society where what I wore was what was prominent, was what was in. In addition, I never thought I had the body for it. So even if I wore it, like, what are you looking at? Like, if you understand what I mean, right? So no, of course, I got saved, and I'm going to be honest. I'm not saying in a few, because I was a quote unquote fashionista. I'm not saying in a few outfits people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, you look nice." But was I ever going for sexy? No, I was going for like a fashion girl. Like, I'm not going to be like this the sex kitten or anything like that. I had style, yada yada yada. So no, as I got older, as I got saved, of course, certain outfits I would not be in anymore. Like, I'm not wearing midriffs to church, not wearing skin tight to the point you can see the outline, because eventually sis gained weight. I'm not going to be in certain things, not saying I always got it right, because I honestly did not. And that is why I don't even speak per se. I have before, but I don't touch on modesty, because I feel modesty is subjective. And even when I think I get it right, and I think I get it right most times, there's just always something else. So I it's just not my circus, right? So for the most part, I did a good job in terms of transforming myself, or more so having God transform me from someone who grew up in a lifestyle where it was belly rings, this and that chain, like, to someone who was more subtle, who was more modest. But then this is the part where things kind of got strange. And I always say to myself, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's as a result of past incidents. I don't know if it's because of things that I've consumed. And by consume, I don't necessarily mean eat. They always say in life, your ear gate, your eye gate are windows to your soul. I don't know if it is a family history. I don't know what it is. But I've realized as I grew older, even when I was saved, I it's almost like, and this is so weird to even talk about, but I have to talk about it because it has affected me. It was almost as if I got more attractive, and I know that's so crazy. So remember, I'm still 5 feet one. I didn't grow. I was shorter, but I grew. That was the end. 5 feet one. I gained weight, but I still was not looking at myself like. I'm going to be honest. I knew things changed about me, features changed about me, assets changed about me, but I still was not looking at myself to be, oh, there's, I don't know if you guys ever seen, like, there's some women in church, like, they can't hide their figure no matter what they wear. It's obvious that they just have a certain body type. I was not like that per se, right? But for some reason, there was just this huge appeal surrounding me, to the point sometimes I had to wonder what was wrong. Like, was there a spirit? Was there something in my past coming out? Like, because I'm going to be honest, for most of my life after getting saved, I was on a purity journey. I don't watch TV. I do not listen to certain secular. I'm not gonna lie and tell you I don't listen to secular, because of course I would have done the previous episode. I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't listen to secular, but certain, sensual songs, like, even if I had relapses in certain aspects of my life, I would still move forward. I would repent and I would say to God, help me with this. But for some reason, your girl, that is me, I got way more attention than I would like. And sometimes I have to wonder what's going on. Like, do I have like an excess amount of pheromones? Like, how do I deal with it? Of course, it's not something that I sit every single day and think about. Like, it's not that deep, it's not that serious. However, I have seen myself in some situations where I'm like, is it just me, or like, what's happening? Now, when I say I find myself in situations, I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean. I'm not telling you that every single time I head out the door and I go to church, there is a man fighting to get his way to speak to me. I mean, things have happened like that, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm also talking about some very strange incidents. And one of the incidents I'm going to share right now is, I remember I was just, I think this is normal. I think this is what people should do, especially as a young woman, a young adult, as anybody, as somebody who's single. You're going to pray against lust. You're going to pray against your flesh. You're going to ask for God to continue to guide you and to keep you. Why? I remember this specific incident where after church, I don't know if the man that was there, he had an official role, let me just say that. He said he heard my prayer, and as a result he confronted me. And nothing is wrong with that, 'cause occasionally people will sense things in a spirit, or people will come to you and they'll be like, oh, they're praying for you. He said to me, and sometimes I don't even want to speak on it, because I'm like, was he wrong or was he even right? Because what he said to me, it didn't happen. He was basically saying, he knows that I am tempted. tempted beyond belief, right? To go out there and get in pursuit to act upon my loss. Basically, that's what he was saying, which was far from the truth. But he didn't say it in a way in which I am saying it. He said it very racha, very raunchy. And it honestly had me feeling so bad for so many days, so insecure, so just out of place, so strange. Because I'm saying, like, what did he see? What did I do? Or more so, did he just say that because he's unfamiliar with me? And I say unfamiliar with me because I don't know if I've mentioned it as yet, but just a brief background history. The church that I got saved in was separate from the church that I went to regularly. Like, my home church. I still call it the church I attended frequently. I call that my home church. But what I want to say about that place is, even though I wasn't always like the newest person, I think I was the person with the least affiliations. Like, I didn't have family in the church. I didn't have. I had friends, but yeah, even persons who visited, because everybody knew each other. It was a huge church, but I don't know if it's because of the history. I think it's because of the history and because of the organization. Everybody knew each other, so oftentimes people would always come up to me like, "Who are you?" Blah blah blah, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am all that in a bag of chips. Maybe I am, but I know for a fact people would appreciate what is before them and give me a few compliments here and there, right? So I oftentimes found myself on the back end of receiving certain assumptions. Like, there were just preconceived notions about me. Like, exhibit A. I remember, and this is something that only Pentecostals can relate to. I was tarrying for the Holy Ghost. And while doing so, bear in mind I'm single. This person doesn't know me. They don't know where I'm from. They don't know anything about me, but that's just how it works. People will always come and try to help you out in terms of praying with you and all of that. He's there. He realizes I'm not connecting with God the way I'm supposed to. But I was trying. I know for a fact that I was trying. Out of the blue, out of nowhere, while he's, trying to encourage me, he says to me, "Is it a man? Is it a man that is on your mind?" I'm like, "What?" And like, it threw me off to the point where I actually got the Holy Ghost. And I know that's I started speaking in tongues, I should say, because the Holy Ghost was there already. It threw me off to the point I started to speak in, because I'm like, why, of all the things you could say, why is that the first assumption? Why? Okay? And I've just had like a few encounters after that just kind of just I'm like, what is it about people when they might see a more conventionally attractive woman who is trying to serve God, that they have so much assumptions to make? They have so much categories to put you in. They want to tell you what the problem you're facing. But the reality is, not every woman of God is having husband issues or lust issues. Not everybody's journey is the same. And I've long concluded it's just simply because we're so used to women looking a certain type of way in church. We're so used to women look, I don't want to say drab, because I've met many attractive women in church, women who are beautiful, women who don't have to do too much. But it's almost like even the people that are in the church themselves, they expect for you to be drab. Like, if you're drab, you're okay. You can't be too fabulous. And I understand modesty totally. But even so, there are just certain things about oneself, one's character, no, not character, one's physical appearance that cannot be altered, right? And I used to always wonder, like, why is it that when it's as I said, is somebody who fits the norm of what you would consider as attractive or whatever, why is it that even on social media, even on public spaces, oh, she's just an next pretty girl, oh, like, it's just always those type of stereotypes. Like, even in church, it's stereotyped. So yes, I just started to realize that there was just this over sexualization of some women in church. And I'm not saying that some people don't come with bad intentions, and I'm not saying that some people don't have the right to be weary or cautious, but I've realized, especially in the type of church that I go to, where certain things are restricted or persons are so cautious or overly cautious about apparel. I oftentimes think that the people who fear things, they're the ones who struggle with it the most. They're the ones who highlight things that you yourself never even thought about. They, like, while trying to prevent something, they in turn become what they're trying to prevent. Like, when they always say fear becomes reality, I feel like that is often at times the case, because sometimes you're like, I never knew that this was taboo. I never knew that this would be an issue. And I'm not saying that as you grow, you don't realize certain things, because that's the reason why you have the Holy Spirit, to learn how to become convicted, to learn how to dress better, to learn how to not be sensual, to get rid of lasciviousness and things like that. Like, you're trying your very best to not be in the flesh. But at the same time, I feel like there's been many instances where it's borderline obsessive, to the point where they have over sexualized certain aspects. And I did not know how to cope with that at one point in time, especially as a young woman, especially as a young woman who was new in so many of the cases that I was in so many of the spaces that I was in. The funny thing about the whole situation is that I've learned that it might even be a personal issue than it was just a church issue. So that's something that I have to fess up to. Like, I've been, even though I think, honestly, not even think, I know for a fact that it was highlighted as a result of being in church spaces, where people would come up to me and they would just, people would be like, I don't think you're, remember in a church setting, people would assume you're not single, you're seeing somebody, like some, and I'm like, what gives you that impression? But I've come to realize, for a very long period, for a very long time in my life, I've always been preconceived. I've always been the type of person that people connotate certain things about, and I've just learned to accept it and not let it get to me. Like, sometimes when I say to people that, oh, I'm not dating, or oh, I'm not, it's like the hardest thing to perceive people, and I don't even think that I'm at my best. Like, I don't even think that I'm at my best, and I just have to say to myself, I'm just gonna chalk it up and be flattered, because what do you even mean? Yes, so it's just often insinuated that because a woman has a certain appeal to her, right? She is going to be scandalous. She's going to be promiscuous, which I've never been. And sometimes people project those presumptions on you. They will do certain things. You'll hear certain remarks. Like, I've been in situations, I've been in cases where I'm just there minding my business, even trying to praise, and I hear a remark, and it's the remark, I know it's not for nobody. Like, I'm not talking about assuming, that it's about me, but the way how it was said, by even who it was said by, I'm like, why is there shade being thrown in a congregation? Like, I've literally even moved, and I've had the same experience. Honestly, I've been to a point where I'm in even the longest gown. When I say gown, I mean to the floor gown. And because of a simple bosom issue, not intentionally showing bosom. But sometimes, because the reality is we won't always get it right as ladies. The top part, it was a bit too loose, fully covered from head to toe, not tight, nothing like that. I simply bent forward, and the rest was history. I was called words, things were being assumed about me. I was being told to remember the men of the church, the older men, I should say, of the church. And I'm like, I'm not saying I will deliberately try to cause anyone to fall, but Why am I being held responsible for your inability to communicate with a woman for 2 to 3 minutes or even less? Because most of the times I'm just saying, hi, bye, bless the Lord. And that provokes you to the point of lust, like you should talk to God. However, it's just been some instances where I'm like, am I too sexy for this place? Like, am I too sexy for my shirt? As the song says, like, there's just been so many incidents. I mean, so many. And the funny thing about it, because sometimes I say to myself, is it merely because of the fact that you are not what they expect? Now, people, I'm not here to tell you that I'm in the world's 100 most beautiful faces, but I'm also not going to deny the fact that in most settings I am going to be a standout. And the reason why I say that is because for one, the girl never, I do not wear flats. Let's just start right there. But in the last two places of worship that I've been in, I was always like the newest. Like I was always in spotlights where I had to be highlighted. If that makes sense, it's either I was always the newest person there. It's either I was the only person who would walk in at a certain time. Like there was just always something that would. I don't even like it, to be honest, because if you knew me, you would know how it irks me to have people notice me for shallow things. I actually don't like it. Notice me for my spirit. Notice me for my intelligence. Like the greatest compliment I've ever gotten is, wow, you have a sweet spirit of God is on you. You know, things like that. However, I've just sadly been in places, in positions where for the last few years of my life, the lights were on me. Don't always like it. With that being said, of course, you know, in this life, you have to overcome. You have to move on. You have to forgive people. You have to say, okay, um, thank you for assuming about my character for no reason. Thank you for assuming that my biggest problem in life is lust. You know, not saying that I won't face it, not saying that there aren't moments, but not everyone goes through the same struggles. Not everyone is going to be addicted to the same things. Not everyone is male centered or seeking actively, earnestly for like a kingdom spouse. Nothing is wrong with that, by the way, but I'm just saying everyone's story, everyone's position, everyone's goal are yeah, everyone's struggle is different. But with all of that being said, I also want to just touch briefly on even apparel because even though yes, as I stated, I'm just not a modesty expert because it seems I have failed more times than I've liked. As I stated, been a fashionista then, trying to be a fashionista now. However, sometimes I honestly I just miss the mark, it seems, people. And because I've missed the mark, I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm going to brand myself, quote unquote, like as a modest influencer. I'm not an influencer in general, but I'm just saying, not going to brand myself a certain category, a certain title for people to only come and use it against me or to kind of be like, oh, I thought you know, because to whom much is given, much is expected. Let's just say right that. Let's just say it like that. Yeah. So sometimes I understand how important it is for us to look the part. Like, you know, your royalty or father is a king, you're supposed to look like royalty. You're supposed to dress in a way that it doesn't cause attention too much because modesty, you know, what people don't understand, modesty not just about whether it's long or short or whether it's tight or loose. It's a way to not cause too much eyes on you. And whereas you have people call out a girl in a bodycon, you won't have somebody call out a next sister or even brother who is in a multicolored suit or a multicolored tie and like they're trying to distract me like your colors are distracting me because why is it so bright, because to me that's immodest. Modesty is not just about how tight it fits, it's about causing or attracting as little as much attention to yourself. You're doing it as the word that I said before, it's subtly. Let me actually tell you what is modesty. Let me Google what is modesty. right? The quality of being relatively moderate, limited, or small in amount, rate, or level, right? And we're talking, well, that is an overall context. It's not necessarily referencing clothes, but it's still applicable. Because why is it that you need to have the largest hat on your head? I don't have a problem with hats. I don't have a problem with suits. I don't have a problem with dressing up. But why are we always so quick to condemn people who might have slipped up, but we're not condemning the people who make it seem like we're in a circle? It's like, no, modesty is about trying to not attract too much attention to yourself as best as possible. People, I don't even, when it comes on, I might have said that I'm a fashionista, but when it comes on to even apparel, the things that I wear, I'm the type of girl that will wear like a t-shirt and a skirt, a classy t-shirt. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. But with all of that being said, still, right? I understand the implications. I understand that there are too many people, there are too many Jezebels, both men and women, who come into the house of the Lord trying to seek out people, trying to devour them, trying to get their attentions away. There's many women who go to church with intentions of wearing the tightest this, the tightest that, because when they jump, they want it to jiggle. I get it. I totally understand it. And I've actually reached a point in my life, because at the end of the day, me telling the stories and me all of that, it's still supposed to help me. It's supposed to have people to say, oh yes, I've been through that, but it's also for me. This is not, as I would have initially stated, it's not recorded in real time. It's something that I would commentate on, like, as a part of my journey. And right now I've decided to no longer take offense when people try to highlight certain aspects about me. And I don't mean, because as I said, I'm not the type of girl you would come to and be like, oh, your body is showing, or whatever. However, I've decided just the same to assess myself, to ask, or more so to ask God to assess myself spiritually, because I don't know if there's something in the spirit. I don't know if there's history. I don't know if there's bloodline. I don't know if there's generational issues as to why it is that that label. And it's so important how we label persons, how we assume, and how we assume about people, how we project on them, because you yourself, the projector, might also be trying to influence this person's, I don't want to say influence their destiny, but it's similar to how you would say, be careful of what you speak into the atmosphere, because it can come to life. Don't be speaking over people, telling people that they're too this or they're do that, or assuming that people are Jezebel and this or that, because your assumption might be what pushes somebody over the edge. Nonetheless, I've decided I am taking the step to ask God to search me, for Him to inspect my spiritual side, for Him to dig deep to see if there's anything, any spirit, any this, any that, and if there is a spirit, because I just want to say that obviously discernment is lacking, because throughout the years I've never had somebody come up to me and be like, oh, you have that. Yeah, if you understand, nobody has ever come to me and said, you have that spirit, blah blah blah. So sometimes I'm saying to myself, it's obviously not a me problem, it's a you problem. Because if you're so high and mighty, why not discern if there is truly deeply something inside my heart? However, I've decided to do it myself. And when God searches me, and when I finally get the answer as to what is wrong, what am I doing wrong, if I'm doing something wrong, how can I approach these situations? How can I curb whatever, I don't know, tone or whatever? I don't even know, but I've taken it from the approach of, let me use majority as a consensus to say there might still be something that needs to be worked on. There might be something that needs to be assessed. People, and this is where we're ending today's podcast episode. And I want to apologize in advance for this audio that is kind of fluctuate. I think most of the episodes have fluctuated, but I know that there was a significant point where it did. But we can only go up from here. We can only get better. But yes, remember that modesty is something that you should practice. Even if you're like me, who thinks that it's somewhat controversial, it is still something that we should know how to approach. And this is not in any way me being defeated by a person's assumptions or anything of that sort. I'm just being realistic and open that sometimes we do have to take a step back and say, what can I do differently, or at least pray against it. Sometimes when it is that the same thing is being said, and I'm almost talking about this like it's a like it's a character flaw or a character trait. The girl is too sexy. But yes, I hope everyone got the essence of what I'm trying to say. It's not that serious to me, but it's still something that, as a result of the connotations, people, the assumptions, it has allowed me to just really reflect to this point. So it's not a case where I'm going to get up every single day and be afraid to walk out into places or not go to social events, church events, out of fear of what people are going to perceive about me. No, that's not it. So this was episode 12 in total, but I think this was the fourth or the third episode of the Revival series. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more. And this is me, NIKAGEM. Until next time.